Well, joining me now is Sean Spicer. You know him well. He's the former White House press secretary to join me tonight on the U.S. Report. Sean, thanks so much for coming on the program. We've got this breaking news about the James Comey indictment. Tell us what we know so far, what he's been charged with to the extent that we know, and how is this being received? Because I imagine a lot of people are going to be out there saying, oh, this is just Trump and Pam Bondi trying to get retribution on the left. But I think there's a bit more to it than that.
Well, good to be with you, James. Yeah, this is breaking right now, so the response is somewhat as you would expect, meaning the people on the right are celebrating it. The people on the left, I think, are likely reflexively saying this is ridiculous. But I think that if you want to cut through all of the partisan responses on both sides, here's what I would suggest to folks. There's an inspector general at each of the departments and agencies in the United States. And that is a person who is a lawyer, and their job is to kind of be the watchdog within each agency. So whether it's the Department of Homeland Security, the FBI, or the Food and Drug Administration, they all have an inspector general. The inspector general of the FBI did a report a while back that said that there's no question that James Comey did, in fact, leak classified information to reporters to try to get favorable stories and narratives out there against Donald Trump. So this is that is a known fact. Then the question is, what is a jury or a grand jury in the United States willing to do? And as you know, what we call the statute of limitations here, meaning the time you have to charge somebody for a crime, is coming up very shortly. Clearly, the Eastern District of Virginia U.S. Attorney has now, it appears, gotten a grand jury to indict him. That's the first step in a process. That just means that there's enough to go to trial. So this is the first step. There's a saying in the United States that you can indict a ham sandwich. The idea is there's really not a high burden of proof. And I only say that just to make clear to your audience that this is not a conviction. This is just the sort of the green light to go to trial. And that's what is happening now. So we are in that process. There's no question, I don't think, that Comey did, in fact, share information that he was not privileged to do so. And the question is now, you know, what will he plead out on that? Because that's where I think this gets interesting. Do Comey or his associates say it's not worth going to trial, or do they try to plead down to something? I think this is where it gets interesting.
Absolutely right. Hey, I want to move on, though, to some of this other stuff that we've been seeing this week. I spoke at the top of the program about this horrific attack at this ICE facility in Dallas and the rise of political violence from the left here that seems to be really afflicting the nation at the moment. Now, we've just seen Vice President J.D. Vance offer up incredibly scathing rebuke of Gavin Newsom, basically accusing the Democrat governor of encouraging crazy people to go after law enforcement. Here he was. Here's a little bit of this.
When Democrats, like Gavin Newsom did, say that these people are part of an authoritarian government, when the left-wing media lies about what they're doing, when they lie about who they're arresting, when they lie about the actual job of law enforcement, what they're doing is encouraging crazy people to go and commit violence. You don't have to agree with my immigration policies. You don't have to agree with Donald Trump's immigration policies. But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell.
Yeah, I mean, straight to hell is a pretty strong thing to say, but I think he's right here, Sean. The left is really turning up the temperature so hot on the political climate in the United States, aren't they?
Absolutely. Look, for the last week after the assassination of Charlie Kirk, we've heard them talk about both sides and violence on both sides. But the bottom line is, immediately after that, we've had ICE agents, ICE vehicles, ICE property, had rocks, projectiles, bottles thrown at it. And yet the left says nothing. These are government officials doing their job, following the law. In America, if you don't like the law, you change it. You vote for change. You elect new people. You petition your government. But the left is silent. And here's what the media is failing to tell you. I did a cursory search of all of the social media of the leaders, Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, AOC. None of them will say, do not attack an ICE agent. Do not attack an ICE facility. Violence is never acceptable. They love to use words like, let's turn down the volume. Let's turn down the rhetoric. But they won't condemn their own side. And the media in this country is complicit in allowing it to go on. The vice president, James, is absolutely correct on this. This is ridiculous. If you're going to say that violence is unacceptable, then admit it right now. Your side is coming after ICE agents doing their job, fulfilling their legal obligation, and the left is silent. And to the vice president's point, James, when you tell people they're thugs, they're KGB operators, they're like Nazis, they're like Hitler, the Gestapo, what do you think is going to happen? At some point, if somebody believes that the threat is big enough because the Democrats, the leaders of the Democrats have told them that, then it is your, almost obligation to say, well, then I must stop it. I must do something, because that's what the left has done. They've got these people believing that it's their obligation, in fact, to some degree, their duty to take action. And they own this. All of the blood of those people that died yesterday is on the leaders of the Democratic Party.
Well, that's right. And now we've seen the news that the president has officially named Antifa a terrorist organization. Now it's called Antifa because it supposedly means anti-fascist, but they act pretty fascist. How do you think this is going to go? Because, of course, the left claims it doesn't even exist, but people are posting on social media guidelines that Antifa itself has put out about how to raise an insurrection and how to hold a riot successfully.
Absolutely. I had Harmeet Dillon on my show yesterday. She's the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights. She walked through the whole process, how she prosecuted some of these folks. Look, at the end of the day, one of the things that's really interesting is the left wants to pretend this is a amorphous group of people, that we have no idea who they are. It's a loose group of people that, there's no common thread. But when you look at the funding, there is a common thread. We can get to who's funding it. Why do all the tents at these Antifa sites and rallies look the same? Who's paying for the equipment and the weaponry? Somebody's paying for it. It is got to have some kind of command and control, some kind of leadership. And Donald Trump is instructing the federal government for the first time to actually go after it, to figure it out. But that's like saying that the mafia back in the 1970s, 80s was a sort of an amorphous group. There's always a leadership. There's always somebody that's paying for it. There's someone that's coordinating the command and the control. And Donald Trump is making our government look at this in a realistic way for the first time.
Well, Sean, I'm glad you mentioned the mafia because, of course, the Racketeering and Organized Crime Organization Act, RICO, the RICO statutes, were used to get the mafia precisely because of that. Do you think the same sort of RICO statutes, the same sort of anti-mafia statutes could be used by the Justice Department to shut down Antifa?
Well, absolutely. But more than that, James, it's not just the statute, it's the leadership, right? So when I was talking to Harmeet Dillon, it's a question of willpower and leadership. Right. So I think that, your question about the specific law is important. But if you're not willing to at least look into this and figure out what they've done, you're right. They used that RICO statute to go after the mob, to talk about how there was something bigger at stake that we needed to address. I think absolutely that kind of a statute can be used. But what is reassuring as an American is that a leader of our government, and that flows all the way down to not just Donald Trump, but to Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, and Harmeet Dillon, the Assistant Attorney General, and others at that level, the FBI under Kash Patel, are willing to go after it and to prosecute it. Because that's been the view of the last several administrations, which is we don't even need to look at it.
Sean, we're going to have to leave it there. Sean Spicer, thank you so much for your insights. And check out the Sean Spicer Show, of course. Now, thank you so much for your time.